So before I get into the video, I want to take some time and tell you guys that I've been away for a bit. And with the start of this video, this is going to be the first video that I'm going to be putting out in some time. I've been head down, focused on building some things that I am actually really, really excited about that soon I'm going to be sharing with everybody on the channel. It's a new application that is Bitcoin focused that I think is going to be awesome. Without further ado, is Bitcoin dead? I think that's an important question, sort of, that I think you're seeing people say. And typically, when people are saying that, it's a pretty good indication of where we're at in the cycle. Spoiler alert: the answer is no. Bitcoin is definitely not dead. So in this video, I'm going to run through a couple really interesting things for you quickly that I think point out and make that case that not only is Bitcoin not dead, but in my opinion, things are just barely getting going. And I think there's a lot of reason to be very excited about what this next 6, 12, 24, 36 months look like. As I make this video for you guys right now, I'm actually in El Salvador. So I'm here on the ground seeing, in an economy where Bitcoin is fully integrated. And what I'm seeing is very interesting. I'm going to make some follow-up content about that. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So as I'm making this video right now, Bitcoin's sitting at $19,800, so just under 20K. And it's insane, right? Everyone's got a different perspective. And it's funny, if you dip in and you listen to, mainstream podcasts, people who aren't necessarily in the space, you're seeing people like, is Bitcoin still a thing? Like, is that still going on? And in a couple seconds, I'm going to show you why that's such a ridiculous question to even ask, and shows just how early we are in this cycle. So, I'm not going to give you guys short-term price predictions and that, but I think what we've learned over this last 12 to 24 months is that, for a long time, Bitcoin was framed as an inflation hedge. And in many ways, Bitcoin, the narrative has grown that it's also, and even more so, a debasement hedge, meaning as dollars and other fiat currencies are printed and money gets debased, that Bitcoin is essentially a black hole that is soaking up that excess value. Now, every single day, more and more people are buying Bitcoin with an extremely long time horizon, and they don't want to sell it. They want to hold it. They see it as a place of storing their monetary energy. And not only that, but even at a much bigger level, if you extrapolate out, right, you've got this conflict going on in the world, right, where a lot of the world is framing Russia in one way. Russia doesn't trust a lot of the world, which I'm going to get to something specifically that they're doing here in a second, how that intertwines with all this. But you've got, the U.S. freezing assets of different countries and other countries, retaliating. And then there's also doubt about, for different countries of how do we store our savings? Do we buy bonds like we've done historically? Do we, purchase treasuries? Do we store it in gold? And more countries, I think, are going to start making a different decision, which is we need to store our excess value in a monetary unit that is not that is neutral, right? And arguably, Bitcoin is that asset in a global stage, right? So Bitcoin is the most neutral asset that the world has ever seen. And we're entering uncharted territories in a very interesting manner. So let me jump over. I want to show you, this. So for anybody who's saying, oh my God, things are dead, look at this, right? So this is, again, one data point, but interesting tweets. This is stop panic selling your Bitcoin. If you panic sold in recent weeks, this guy bought it from you. This address buys $2 to $8 million worth of Bitcoin each and every day, regardless of price, DCA, Bitcoin, and hold, right? So literally, if you're looking in here, right, this account is 102 Bitcoin, 104, 102, 108, 108, and it's buying regardless of the price, and it's accumulating, right? And there's a lot of follow-ups to this where you can, they've tracked like other really large purchases and other accounts that are doing the exact same thing, right? And so the question is, who is that? Who's doing that? Who's got that much money and is buying that consistent on a long time horizon? It could be a number of factors, or it could be a number of groups. It could be big funds. It could be sovereign wealth funds. It could be BlackRock, right? It could be a number of these different groups. And that's the nature of Bitcoin, is it's radically transparent, but also anonymous in many ways, is that you don't necessarily know who this is, right? And this particular behavior, this is not unique to like one specific account. We're seeing more and more of this happening. And if if you've been in this space long enough, you realize that there's a large perception game going on, right? Which is to make the public and people with a short-term view, the impatient, make irrational decisions while having a short-term view that ultimately allows chips to fall in the direction of those with a long-term view and enough capital with a long-term plan who actually understands where these things are going, right? So they want to make you panic sell. They want to make you freak out and think, "Oh my God, everything's going to end. If I don't make a big decision here, I have to sell." And ultimately what happens, we're sitting at 20, people panic sell. "Oh my God." Then they sell there, and then not too long from now, we're back at 25. You're back at 30. Those same people come back at 30K and they buy, and now they've got arguably significantly less Bitcoin, right? That they're able to purchase at that price. And you see that over and over and over again. That's just market psychology 101. The next thing that I've talked about earlier, right? So you've got sort of this macro overlay of, obviously there's still a war going on, but you've got Russia who is calling the bluff of the European Union, the UK, and the US and different countries. And they, unfortunately have the ability, right, because of the amount of exports that they push onto the market, that they can, really make life painful for certain countries and certain people in certain areas, if they so choose, if these countries are going to continue to try to push them in a direction that ultimately forces them to call their bluff, right? So we're heading into winter. You've got countries like Germany and other Eastern European countries that have a major reliancy on purchasing oil from other countries, and a lot of that oil historically, right? They've purchased that and that natural gas from Russia. And there's this weird thing going on where we're in pretend land, clown world, where they're like, well, we can't buy from Russia. So what does Russia do? They sell to China to make money or make a profit, and then China just turns the price up and sells it to them anyway, right? So they end up buying it anyway, but they just pay more for it. So again, it's illogical virtue signaling that comes at an economic cost, and we're seeing this, right? Where, and I'm sure you guys have been seeing this, where there's massive, issue in a lot of these countries where people's utility bills are just skyrocketing. And a lot of businesses, that wasn't even a problematic expense for them just recently, and now it's literally, for some of them, for many of them, a deciding factor on if they can even open their doors, right? And that forces the hand of these countries to either claw back and and essentially stop with the verbal taunting and realize, oh, okay, we don't really have a move to play here. We need to chill out, and you're going to see the ramifications of that, right? And so some of these countries are going to suffer economically if they decide to keep playing that direction. And it's massively interesting to see how that plays out. What does that mean, right? In theory, the longer this goes on, a lot of these countries are going to have to do what? They're going to have to keep printing money to pay to people to try to subsidize these things, which, what does that mean? Debasement, right? If you remember the beginning of the video, we talked about Bitcoin as a debasement hedge. You're going to see that over and over, right? Where, again, like, it's overstated. You guys have probably heard it a million times, but at the end of the day, the debt around the world, right? If you looked at it like a business, these would be businesses you would not touch with a 10-foot pole, right? Where they've got massive, amount of debt that's growing. They've got interest on that debt that's unserviceable. And they're in this spot where they're like, we've got to try to fight inflation. And so they're doing it by what? By trying to damage demand and artificially stop demand, right? And, arguably you could make the case most countries are much closer to a managed economy in and communism in different ways than they are to a true free market, right? And many times words like capitalism and free markets get the blame, when in reality, right, capitalism is somebody providing a good or a service at a cost that is above what it costs them to provide it. Therefore, they're making a profit in a mutual exchange, right? That is all it is, right? But obviously, that term has been hijacked by many to mean a very, very different thing. Now, the one other thing I want to get to before this video, and I don't want to make this a super long video because I want it to be to the point and punctual for you guys, is this. So this is what's the website for this? This is companiesmarketcap.com, right? So this is essentially a high-level ranking of, it's not only companies, but it's different assets. So you have precious metals, cryptos, ETFs, and different things on here, and you can start to get a gauge of publicly available assets. Of course, this doesn't include private companies that nobody can purchase a piece of, or private assets that nobody can purchase. It's only public things, but it gives you a ranking to see, just how big some of the biggest companies, precious metals, ETFs, and cryptos are around the world. Now you see gold sitting here at the top of this list, $11 trillion. You've got Apple, Saudi Aramco, Microsoft, yada yada. Now you've got Bitcoin just hanging here at 17, right? And so the original question in this video is Bitcoin dead? Nobody is sitting here saying, is Walmart dead? Is JP Morgan Chase dead? Is Nestle, is MasterCard dead? Is Chevron dead? Home Depot, Samsung, Bank of America, Coca-Cola? Nobody leaves their home and they're wondering, is Coca-Cola just going to be under? Like, am I going to go to the market and there's going to be no Coca-Cola? Of course not, right? And even, like I said, B of A, PepsiCo, Costco, and you look at where Bitcoin sits on this list, and I don't think most people actually know this, right? I don't think people would actually ask that question. Does Bitcoin matter? Is it here, right? And you have this rising floor as more and more time goes on, right? Of the expectations for where this is all heading, right? Because naturally, when you're much earlier on in the growth cycle of something like Bitcoin, the natural question is this even going to be here? Does the world need this? Exactly how does it fit in, right? And every single year that's gone by, those questions are changing, right? And the question, in my opinion, from people who I think have a good gauge of what's going on, is no longer, well, is Bitcoin going to go to zero? Is it going to be here? The question is just how soon and what time frame is it going to get where we think it's going to get, right? Which is a much larger asset, right? A massively larger asset, a neutral asset that people can use as a storage of value, as a means of exchange, and a peaceful way out of a system that they didn't sign up for, a way that countries can protect assets from other countries without them being able to be frozen or seized, a way to capture and utilize stranded energy and convert energy into money, right? Bitcoin is a many different things. And the question of, is Bitcoin dead, at this point, in my opinion, is a ridiculous question. So I hope that this video was interesting for you guys. Over the next 6 months, I'm going to be going pretty crazy on this channel, putting out consistent content in a range of different topics, reaction type of videos, and different things like that. I've got a goal of getting this channel, up to 100,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button, hit the like so that more people can see this. If you think I'm off or made some good points on this, or you've got relevant articles, put a comment below, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.